What's good, everybody? It's Mr. Composition, the MC that writes fiction, back at it with another reaction. So apparently, Drake is disrespecting legends, disrespecting the legends. So I want to see what fantastic hip hop or what happened. Apparently, it's with Michael Jackson. And Kendrick had the freaking line, Drake had the line. That's why the whole thing was, so let's see what's going on. But if you're new to the channel, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, notification bells on so you don't miss when I drop a new video on the road to 10K. Let's go ahead and check this out, shall we?
Now, when it comes to Drake, right within this forced comeback effort that he is trying to make that nobody wants to see with Nokia and so many other antics, Drake just made a move so reckless that he really messed up bad this time, and he didn't just disrespect hip-hop or other rappers, but he straight up disrespected the guy who he once said he idolized in Michael Jackson. And with what Drake just did, there has never been more glaring proof that he is so far gone, because he really just messed with the wrong people. And now, before we go any further into this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. And as Drake has now disrespected really the guy who he has said he wants to be like more than anybody else, really be sure to leave that like so all of music knows how far gone he is and how bad of a choice he just made. And so now, with all that said, when it comes to Drake, if you have been looking around at what's been going on within hip-hop and music recently, you would have seen that ever since Drake has dropped his Nokia video, there has been a clear and obvious play from his team that has been trying to trick everybody into believing that he is making some sort of a comeback. And now, while Drake has been faking records and making up narratives to try and make himself look better while also taking down Kendrick Lamar in the process, none of that even matters to him, as there has been one thing he has needed more than anything else to try and trick everybody about where his career is at, and that was going to be to get Nokia to go #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Also, that after his quote-unquote new record came out of him taking something from the Beatles, he then would take something from the guy who was even bigger than them, which would have been to pass Michael Jackson with the most #1 songs ever. And what Drake believed is that between all of his lies and the impression that he just passed MJ and the Beatles, that this was going to win him back everything he ever needed and put him beyond hip-hop. But now, despite this, and despite how Drake has just used MJ's legacy and disrespected it in the worst way, Drake trying to use these legends to deceive everybody into believing he made a comeback has not worked, and ultimately, everything Drake has tried to pull off in this time has only shown that even beyond hip-hop, the guy has no regard for anybody who's ever paved the way in music. And with how bad Drake...
And the thing is, it's one thing to be like, you pass them, all fine and dandy, but it's like it's a certain level of disrespect that is just unwarranted and just it is gonna rub people the wrong way. And the thing is that, and I've said it in other videos before, I don't think that he is going to be allowed to really do this much more. I think that it's going to be a point where it's just like he's going to switch gears because he can always fall back on acting. That's what's crazy about this. He can always fall back on acting, So I don't think that his money per se will be affected, but the way that he puts stuff out in as far as the type of climate that we in, a win is a win, but it's the disrespect. It's the disrespect.
Up, and at the same time how he wants to try and get a win. He, OVO, and all of the guys they have used for so long to keep people believing he was one of the top people in the music industry have really been trying to do everything they possibly can to just convince everyone in their entirety that this idea of a Drake comeback is real and that he's about to even reach heights that nobody has ever seen. And with that, we have been sitting through an effort on Drake's end, which has been trying to create one entire elaborate lie. And now, while a lot of what Drake is trying to do right now is videos make Kendrick Lamar look like an absolute liar, with fellow OVO members like Baca trying to even the playing field in rap and saying Kendrick Lamar is this awful person who lies and just does whatever he wants, which of course all of hip-hop is seeing through no matter how annoying it is.
Seriously.
The much bigger play at hand here revolved around pushing the musical success of Drake to the forefront and trying to dangle accomplishments in people's faces to make them believe that his career has not been ruined in a way that he has still not come back from. And for Drake and his team, they perfectly aligned together 3 moments which they believe would be enough to get him back on top and surpass Kendrick Lamar. And now what these were was first off this story of Drake passing a new total units moved in his career, which they purposefully updated these numbers now, again to just try and push this comeback more than they ever have, because that's how it works with these certifications. And with somebody like Kendrick, for example, he does not care about these and has not updated them in so long that Mr. Morale has not even been counted for or anything beyond that. So we don't even know those real numbers, and they have not been updated for Kendrick at all, so you can't even compare them. But of course for Drake, he's doing all of this to give everybody the biggest narratives and bait to talk about him with, and ultimately try to really make him look like he's doing amazing. And all this didn't stop here, as the next thing Drake was trying to do is push his name forward in conversations with all-time legends. So again, he can try and build this respect factor up and just change the narrative about what's going on. And so what he did here was have another milestone conveniently come out about how he has passed the Beatles on the Billboard 200 chart in terms of how long his albums have been charting there, which once again...
You know what's crazy about it? It's like, haven't people learned that the people who don't brag about it usually... You know, if you got to sit up there and convince people of this, then what are you doing? You know, like, well, what have you actually? It's not, again, these are impressive, you know what I mean? But as it's being broken down, if, like I said, if you got to be putting this stuff out there to portray and make you seem like this particular thing, you know, that doesn't change the fact that you got your ass handed to you in a rap beef that you wanted to happen. None of this stuff is going to erase that. Like, you have to, at some point, you need to embrace this L. You know, like, you have to embrace this L. I think that's really the only way moving forward for him. He has to embrace it. He can't sweep it under the rug. Like, this isn't something you can sweep under the rug, Drake. Like, anyway, he's trying it. He damn sure is trying. Like, damn, you get a free. He really is trying, whether it's been the 100 gigs, the random tracks he's dropped, the freaking some sexy songs for you, this Nokia, different posts that he's made. Now with this, it's just all like, he really is trying though.
Just seeing Drake and the Beatles names together would do decent for him regardless of the situation, but now most importantly for Drake, and what he has been chasing with this Nokia record more than anything, and what he really wanted to get way before this beef but just couldn't, is not just another #1 song, but really for Drake it would become the #1 song, because Nokia's potential spot there would mean that Drake would pass MJ and become the artist with the most #1 records in the history of the Billboard Hot 100 chart. And so with this, the main play and what Drake believed was going to take him to the next level was this all-out push with the video and narratives he has been spreading to try and revise the beef and his image and then get Nokia to #1, which then if he did, Drake can once again try and use a legend like MJ as a prop that he can step over to try and assert greatness over. And I mean, with Drake trying to pull this off, not just does it make that whole part of Family Matters and the final beat switch where Drake tried to then diss Mike to diss Kendrick seem even more weird, and really in terms of the beef shows how desperate Drake was to create any sort of a bar or narrative that he could get off. But beyond that, it is also ironic considering how this beef started with the Prince and MJ comparisons from Kendrick Lamar on Like That. And now ultimately, as we are decently removed from all of that, we are seeing how Drake has no respect for either of them, just from the fact of how he has talked, treated, and used them as props to try and lift himself up without regard for anything else. And
before we get into that, this video is sponsored by me. Hey, if you want to dive into new music, I have a catalog. Yeah. These are not singles. These are albums But more recently this year, I did release an album called Tame Chaos. So you can listen, stream, download, purchase all of that in the link in the description. And just, check it out because I want to see if people are actually seeing this and going to the site. So, anyways, exactly. That's what's crazy about all of this. It is unfortunate, but we live in a day and age where people are going to go to whatever extremes. Like the fact that we're even in a place where the narrative can kind of change due to the whatever propaganda is being pushed. And if you're a superstar rapper like Drake, when you put certain things out, that's why he's always tried to use the internet and to try to use that in beef as well. You know what I mean? And so now that I feel like that is backfiring on him, you know, he, like I said before, I feel like he needs to embrace this L, stop acting like it didn't happen, because I think that until he does that, he's gonna keep on trying to do this, and it's not gonna end up. None of this stuff has ended up the way that he's wanted it. The lawsuit, freaking like, I'm not sure what his particular angle is, but I don't know. His brain seems fried. I know a lot of people is talking about Kanye. I know that Drake has not gone to that level, but the thinking behind it. At least Kanye, there'll be like random nuggets in it, but we don't know Drake. He doesn't do any type of interviews. He has done them, but then you fact check some of the stuff that's on there, and then now with hindsight, with certain things, it's just like, dang, man. He's just this like we don't know who he actually is, and I know with mostly anybody that's the case, but on a musical level and just we can't say personal level, but I can say at least with someone like Kendrick, at least with someone like a J. Cole, or at least with some of these other people, we get a glimpse of their personal life with the things that they're into. Even with someone like a Megan Thee Stallion, it's just all like we know she loves anime, So that's a personal trait as far as with her. We don't have nothing like that with Drake. He just seems like the overgrown kid, and it's just playing out in a weird way. I don't know if we've seen stuff like this, in this particular way. But I'll leave the full video in the comments. What do you think of how Drake is moving? Do you think that it's genius? Do you think that there's something he's super strategic planning far in advance? Or you think he's just lost? Let me know in the comments. But it's best composition, MC that writes fiction. Back at it with another reaction. Make sure to like, subscribe, notification bells on so you don't miss when I drop a video. On the road to 10K, make sure to check out the description for my music, books, comics, and more. All right, y'all.